I have Pro Tools open, and this is a template I use when I go to different studios. It's important to have what's called a template because when you do go to different studios, you don't know what plugins they have. You don't know how their stuff is set up. So this is going to be a fail-safe to help the workflow and get the sound you want. So sometimes with these inserted plugins I'll have to swap them out for whatever they have available as a replacement. But overall, this is a good basic start. So I'll walk you through quickly how I have my recording template set up. My mixing template is different because I do use analog equipment at my studio. And so it requires some different routing as far as the inputs and outputs go. But here I have a master track. You always have that. You can either have it at the top of the session or the bottom. I tend to put mine at the top. That's the first thing you need is a master fader. Then I have a click track ready on an aux, a mono aux. And you can see here, that's where you turn it on and off. And you have that ready because you don't know if the artist is going to want one. Sometimes they're in a booth in the middle of a take and they're like, give me a click track. And if you don't have it like there and you have to stop and make the in, you could be quick with it, but it's better to have it there. Now this setup is just kind of like a for anything template. I don't know what's happening. I need to have a lot of options available. So I have an all music bus here. If we're creating the music in the studio with different instruments, I can have an all music bus here that allows you to put plugins on the whole music group and then control the overall volume as well. I have a laptop track here because sometimes producers will have a laptop going into the board like a SSL. And then I'll be able to just record that laptop, instead of them having to bounce out a file and then airdrop it to the studio computer. I can just say, let's record it right now. And then I can even get the cool sound from the board. So sometimes they'll be like making a beat on their laptop and I'll just have them track it out right then and there as if it was like a drum machine going through the board. Then these are playback tracks for the laptop. So I use one record track for each instrument. I record, and then drop the files down to playback tracks. So now we have here a guitar track. This is the record track for guitar. A nice effects is the GTR tool rack from Waves. Gives you all different types of, sounds. It's a pedal board, a digital one. Then these are the guitar playback tracks. So they do layers. I drop them down to their respective tracks. Here's a bass track and repeat. Now we get down to vocal. I always have a vocal bus. I have a vocal bus for the lead vocal, and I have a vocal bus for backgrounds. That will be doubles and harmonies. They need to be separate because they need to be treated slightly different because they both have different roles. I used to squish all the vocals into one bus, and then I started working with some people who worked like this, and I said, oh gosh, that's how you got to do it now. So I'll start with, this is just this template that I have. This doesn't mean that this is exactly what you should do every time.
Right.
But this is a Universal Audio 1176 compressor. I like that to be the first thing I hit. Then a Waves SSL channel for just a little bit of EQ and compression. Then a de-esser to tame sibilance. You're going to have a lot of problem with those. Then this is a multi-band compressor to kind of squash some of the nasty frequencies in a vocal. Then another compressor. And then this is kind of like a frequency-dependent limiter. It's just like a finalizer plugin that gives everything a little more juice. It kind of puts a little saturation back in after you've tamed it with the multiband. I have a vocal record track here, and then this is a vocal playback track. I can duplicate this track as many times as I need. So as you can see, I'm recording my podcast voice right now. And then background, pretty much same plugin setup, but I can adjust them differently. Now you see these here are sends for effects from the aux track. I have this one VRB, it's verb wait, so that's verb is for reverb. So down here I have the auxiliary track stereo. Here's a nice reverb to use. Lots of different setups, presets in here. It's good to match the reverbs with the style of the song. Don't just think that a reverb is a reverb. You know, a certain song might need to be in a hall. It might need to be in a play, a chamber, church. And then is the reverb need to be dark or bright based on the song? You know, if it's a sadder minor song, let's give it a dark reverb, you know, maybe. If it's a happy pop song, a bright reverb, nice and shiny, you know. And then the decay times are good to play with too. You know, a lead vocal might need a shorter one, where backgrounds could have a nice longer one because they're going to be kind of washing in the background. Every song is different, but that kind of goes across the board. So how much reverb do I want? Well, that's how much I can send to the reverb from the auxiliary track. And you can get deep into it. Down here, there's different automation parameters. So if you have a verse, you can set the level here, and then the chorus comes in and you want more reverb, you can automate that. Other effects I have are an eighth note delay. I have that ready here. This is just a decent delay that you'll find in most studios. Different flavor settings right here, different textures. Same plugin again, but this is a quarter note delay. Eighth note delay is kind of cool to have just low in the background throughout the whole song. You know, you don't really even need to hear it unless it's meant to be heard, but it just adds a little width and space. And then the quarter note delay I personally use for more throws or automated sends on certain words or phrases. Then I use a what I call a doubler, and it's this Waves Doubler 2. You want to take the direct off because the direct is the dry signal, but you want only wet signal because you're sending it from the dry to the wet. This is going to add some width to the vocal, and if you turn it up quite a bit, you can hear like more of a robotic sound, and that can be cool for an effect. But I use it as a little spice, if you will, where you don't know that it's there, but it wraps the vocal around your head and it makes it more wide. And then the last thing I use is a rear bus, and this is for parallel compression. It should be pre-fade or send so that the send isn't affected by the level that you have in the mix. You're getting the full signal. Then down here, this particular compressor, when you open it, it looks like this. So click on this button here to get to this version of it. And what you want with this parallel compression is you want this meter to be slamming, really hard compression, something that's squashing the crap out of it. And then what you do is you have this fader down at 0, and you kind of add in as much of that signal as you want. And that help. And you can do this with the music as well. You can have a rear bus for vocal and a rear bus for the music. You send, just like you do with the vocal, all the tracks to it at 0 pre-fader, and then you blend in, and it gives you just a little boost, just a subtle boost. It puts everything in place, keeps it nice and tight, but you only want to add a tiny bit, you know, just start fading it in until your ear notices, oh, I can hear it a tiny bit. And then maybe even at that point where you can actually hear it, back off a little bit.
Okay.
And then, you know, that's basics. You know, I have auto tune here on the record track as an insert. And then I would obviously copy that to all the other playback tracks. So that's just, you know, like a basic template right there.
That's nice. I appreciate you sharing all that, Todd.